All right.
All right. How's everybody doing today? This is Matt Aitchison, facilitating our One Life webinar this month. We got a good one for you on debt reduction and budgeting, really becoming more aware of how we handle and run our finances. I got three awesome guests on board today, and we're going to be just talking about living a more aware life around finances. And we got Tyler on board today. We got Philip, and we have Ellen. And we're really going to be breaking it down into what is the simple plan for how we go about budgeting. Everybody is in a different space in their journey. You'll be learning about kind of where they started and really where they were at before they became mindful of their financial planning. They are going to share with you of really what experience was it that made them become mindful, and wrapping that up is they're going to share on really what action steps was it that they're taking, right? We're all on this call to learn about what is the meat and potatoes behind how people become mindful about where they're at from the starting point and really where they're at, and the journey never stops. So I'm excited to jump in this call with them. We got a lot of people on this call, and we're thankful that you're taking time out of your day. I'm in Orlando, Florida right now for a conference, and it's 7 here. I know we got Pacific Standard Time, and we got people all across the country and even outside the country. So thank you for being on board. We're excited to start. I'm going to jump in with a quick little quote that I thought was extremely fitting for how we are going to navigate this conference and this hangout today. And it was one by Sue Zorman, and she said, "The only way you will ever permanently take control of your financial life is to dig deep and fix the root of the problem." And so the motto today is we are going to inspect the root, and I challenge everybody to inspect their own root. And let's talk about some of the action steps that we can get for creating a soil and a foundation for financial abundance and freedom. Whether you're in debt, whether you're already a millionaire, this is something I think everybody will kind of get to hear about this mastermind through everybody's journey, and I look forward to it. So let's jump right in. I'm going to start with Tyler, and Tyler has a really cool story on. He's somewhat in the beginning of his journey on debt reduction, and to be honest, he's well on his way and has made a significant stride over the last few years. And I'm going to let him share a little bit more about his journey. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tyler, and kind of where you're at and what's transpired over the last few years in your debt reduction journey.
All right, thanks, Matt. Yeah, I am the newly inspected root of the day. So basically, as far as what caused me and my wife to be more mindful is last June we had our first baby, and we really kind of realized and sat down and said, wow, we need to take control of our financial futures. We both went to grad school and got quite a bit of debt from that, and then didn't really adjust our lifestyle and kind of got into some credit card debt in addition to the student loan debt. And so what really changed our direction was a few months ago at the One Life conference in Reno back in November. And before then, as far as where we were before, we had just under $16,000 in credit card debt spread over 4 credit cards, a car loan with $2,700 owed on it, nearly $80,000 of student loan debts to pay off still. And right during that weekend when we said it's time to change, we sat down and did a net worth calculation and figured our net worth was a whopping negative $61,858. So now, that hasn't been that long ago, but we are definitely well on our way, as Matt said, at least I like to think so, making strides towards improving that situation. So as ugly as that is, if we can do it, you guys can too. It's actually realized it's 3 months to the day since the end of the One Life Fully Lived conference in November. Since then, we've paid off our car loan of $2,700 in full. We've paid off one of our credit cards that had $1,495 on it in full, a second one that had $1,484 on it in full, and then $2,000 down towards a third credit card, which is in 3 months a total of $7,681, and a minimum payment amount monthly of $709 a month that we've erased out of our budget. That's after tax dollars, so we figured we gave ourselves in the last 3 months about a $12,000 increase in salary, which feels pretty good. And what that's actually going to allow us to do is next month my wife is going to become a stay-at-home mom, and that was really our goal ever since we got married and knew how we wanted to raise children together. So we've been able to be diligent and get to that, and we're excited to continue working towards that debt plan.
Okay, so I want to take a quick step there, because that is absolutely huge. I just want people to understand that you started with somewhat of this formula that, and this is a simple plan, right? You guys, you knew where you were at first. You knew what your debt was. And then you guys simply basically followed this model, which was really what we want to share with everybody, and Ellen's going to get into it a little bit more. But we're talking about, you guys knew what kind of debt you were in, you knew what your income sources looked like and what that number was coming in monthly. You guys identified what your expenses were, and so it's basically the A is your income, the B is your expense, and now we have the C figure, which is what's left over for either debt reduction or investing. And you paid off debt. You guys basically gave yourselves a $700 a month raise. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And
after tax dollars. Well, we haven't given ourselves a raise yet. We're still putting that towards debt. So,
okay.
But if we wanted to, we could give ourselves a raise.
Right. And then on top of that, you were able to get your wife full-time in the household, which was a huge goal. And that's extremely amazing
Correct.
to hear that.
Yeah.
That's great. So you guys were, what was that time, that experience where you finally said, okay, we're in this amount of debt, enough is enough, I need to make some changes, we need to make some changes? Really, what was that experience that kind of flipped the switch and said, okay, it's time to move in this direction?
Well, part of it was we were lucky enough to go to the One Life Fully Lived conference, and just all the different tools that we learned at the conference, and just the motivation really spurred us to, you know what, we've had enough of this. It's time. It was just sort of a spark. I think it was, at that time, about 4 months, just really starting to come alive and be a little human being. And we just knew, my wife is a recruiter, so it's like a type job, and so it's demanding doing that plus the baby, and we just knew that it was time to sit down. What we were doing before is we'd make a budget every couple months, and then we'd look back a couple months later and say, oh, that was the budget. That's not what we spent at all. So it was finally a matter of part emotion, part getting the tools, which one of the tools we use is this app called YNAB, or You Need a Budget. It allows us basically to see in real time on our phone, as we're out and about spending, how much money we have in each category left for each month. And so we just started giving every dollar a job, and it's worked out really well. As an example, we realized once we started tracking it, we were spending about $1,200 a month between groceries and restaurants. So
wow.
On food alone, $1,200 a month. That's dropped down to $650 to $700. So that's another $6,000 a year raise that we gave ourselves.
That's amazing. I think that's the key here is you guys started with the tracking piece, and this is where so many people have their head in the sand, and they know they're in debt, and they get too far in, and the easiest option is to turn a blind eye to it. And I commend you guys for really identifying where the issue's at and creating an action plan around that. So that's awesome. So just so everybody knows, we're going to be sharing all of the tools and resources on the One Life page. You guys will have access to the resources that all of us are talking about here. But tell us a little bit more about YNAB real quick, so the viewers can understand really how you guys were using that and how it pushed you forward.
Sure. So it's based around the zero-based budgeting system, which for those of you who aren't familiar with that, is you have to give every dollar that comes in a job. Think of it this way: if you had a company and you hired 50 employees, and let them do whatever they wanted, your dollars are your employees. So when they come in, you have to give each of them a job. And so you sit down with this software on your computer, and with your spouse or your own, just if you're single, yourself, and figure out, okay, this is how much money I have till I get paid next. What needs to happen? And you just plot it out, and you allocate your everyday expenses, and then you allocate some towards rainy day funds, such as home repair. You just don't know when, so you have to set some aside. And then it syncs up with your phone, and so it tells you exactly how much money you have, say $600 left in food for the month. So if you go and you buy groceries for $100, you have it added in your phone left. Once that runs out, you can't spend any more on food, and it alerts you and tells you. So it's a good just accountability piece, is what it
I love
is.
it. I love it. And you know what? That's when you set that goal. I think the next level that a lot of people fall flat on is they don't have that accountability. So, in addition to this tool, besides you and your wife, did you have anybody else that was truly holding you accountable to following these goals that you guys set for yourself?
Uh, Tim Rode, actually, when I talked to him about what we were doing, and he said, "Do you want to talk about it and share your story?" I'd say, "I'd love to." And he said, "Well, this means that you're going to have to follow through with it." So uh, everyone watching is now my account. What's keeping us. And my dad, I work with my dad. He's an accountant. We're here at a CPA firm, and so I'm talking with him about finances all the time. And so he is also kind of someone to hold me accountable to what we're doing. So.
Awesome, man. Kudos to you. I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story. And so I want to move into a little transition with Philip. And Philip is someone who is in the real estate world. He's had a great transition from the corporate environment, more of an employee type environment, to being self-employed, owning his own business, and making some massive debt reduction moves on the chess and checkerboard, as I like to say. So, Philip, why don't you give everybody a little bit of information on where you started, where you're at now, and we'll fill in the gaps in between.
Sure. Hey, thanks, Matt. For me, it just started out to where I was in the corporate world. I was a finance director in a car business. I was in the business 15 years. And during that time, the economy was great. Money was just coming in, and just didn't really keep track of anything. We had a lot of money, and we just lived the life. A lot of vacations, buying a lot of nice things, and the next thing, it just got out of hand. And I wasn't one to really keep track of anything. Checks would come in, we'd pay the bills, pay the minimum on credit cards. Yet, we would obviously be spending more money than was coming in. And what happened was, initially 2010, the economy crashed, and my income dropped about 60%. And so, in that year, I also had some other significant life changes to where I really had to take a look at where I was at. Pretty much on the verge of going bankrupt and losing everything that I had worked for over the last 15, 20 years. I got involved with this One Life community, and I met Tim Rode, and we started talking about this, and I hired him as a coach. And that's when we sat down for the first time in my life and did a personal inventory of my finances, where I was at. I've read some good books, Cash Flow Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki, read a lot, heard a lot of Dave Ramsey's podcasts, never applied it. And so I sat down and I did exactly, what I was told. I did an inventory of all my debt, my total debt that I had, credit cards, cars, mortgages. And then I took a look at my monthly expenses, and we wrote that out. And then I wrote down how much money I had coming in. So I did the A plus the B plus the C. I'm a real simple guy. and I just put it on a spreadsheet. It was pretty simple, and I don't know if you guys can see this or not. If you can see it the screen, but that's what I did. Over here was my monthly expenses. Over here is my total debt. Over here was my income for the year and how much I had left over for debt reduction. I just
Okay,
kept it
so
real.
you you were about to say it. You kept it real simple, and I think that was a key piece of. Tim and I have talked about this before too, right? And for those of you guys that don't know Tim Rode, the founder of One Life, he is the most giving, caring guy out there, and the common thread seems to be that he's influenced a lot of people in their financial journey and just becoming more mindful of it. But he said one thing to me that I thought was really influential was you got to play defense. And there's so many times where we don't really focus on that B part enough, and we think, oh, I'm making all kinds of money. I got living's good. And then, like what you experienced, right, is you saw the economy take a big hit, and you didn't play enough defense, and that really set you up for a little bit of pain over the next few years. So tell us a little bit about how you transitioned with that simple formula from getting to where you're at today, because I want people to really understand of the debt you were in to the action that you took to where you're at today, because it's really impressive.
So I had way over $100,000 in debt, most of that consumer debt. Okay, what did I do when I took this sheet that I just showed you guys? This sheet here. Every month I sat down, paid the bills. I also had a separate sheet I neglected to print off that had a list of all of my credit card debt. It had who the credit card company was and what that balance was. And we had set up a goal to pay off so much of that debt in a 12-month period. I got into real estate on a part-time basis. The 2 days that I wasn't working as a finance director, I was working as a real estate agent. I got hyper-focused, and the reality of it was, Matt, I got extremely mad at my situation, and I was going to do whatever it took to get out of that situation. So every time we closed a transaction, we looked at that commission check, and we knew that commission check was going to go towards one of those credit cards. If it was going to pay off the balance, or if it was going to pay down a portion of that. The credit cards were lumped into one company, Money Management Incorporated. It's a debt consolidation company where I had a minimum payment of $783 a month that they would automatically take out of my account. But when these commission checks started coming in, I also would call and say, add an extra 1,000 to this credit card, add an extra 500 to this credit card, and that's basically what I did. Kept it very simple. Every month we sat down and I looked at exactly where I was at, what I needed to do to pull that forward. And I still do that today. What's happened since I put this plan together, our monthly budget has dropped $2,000. So we've actually taken an extra $24,000 of income that's not going out to consumer debt. That money management company is paid off. And so that's dropped our monthly budget right there. That $783 is not going out now that we can apply to some other things. My wife's car, we owe about $8,000 left on that. That'll be paid off here in the next couple months. And so that's what we've done. That's what we've done. We continue to analyze where we're at, look at our budget and say, you know what, maybe we need to do something with our cell phone plans, maybe drop that a little bit. We don't watch TV anymore. We don't need to spend that much money on cable, so let's reduce that plan. Just kind of not living the life of scarcity, but looking really how we're spending our money. Okay.
That's amazing. I mean, I think there's a testament to that. So where currently debt-wise, if you're okay with sharing, where are you guys at today with how much debt that you guys owe in a lump sum?
In a lump sum right now, if I look at my home mortgage and car payments and such, we're down to about $226,000. So you take out the mortgage, which is about $150,000. And the rest of that is just automobiles.
So
and
you guys were over
and second mortgage.
$100,000 in debt, and now you guys are down to where you're at today. That's unreal.
Significant.
And it all started with exactly where we are really sharing these simple plans, was just by becoming mindful and mapping it out. And Philip, are you? I know a lot of people don't know where to get started. Are you willing to share your spreadsheet with the One Life community?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm open. Just reach out to me through Facebook. Is the best way to get in touch with me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing, man. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into Ellen, and Ellen has been on this for quite some time. And to be honest, they always say it's hard to teach old dogs new habits. Really, and the saying of that is really people with just bad habits. When you're giving them new tools and resources, sometimes it's really hard to get people to adopt that change unless something real significant in their life happens. Ellen has really been on this journey from an extremely young age, and has been very successful with following the plan, and her discipline and commitment to this simple plan has been something that I know a lot of people would aspire to match up to. So Ellen, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself? Really, what was it that got you into an abundance mindset with how you handle your finances from a really young age, and where you are at today at your comfort level?
Right. Well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. At a very young age, I mean, in my early 20s, I wasn't going to say this, but I'll be forthright.
Let's get
met
into it.
My first husband. Unfortunately, I've been married twice, but my first husband, and at that time I had $1,200 in credit card debt, and he had a great philosophy. I learned a lot from him, and he took that credit card, tore it up, paid it off, and said never again. And never again have I had credit card debt. So that was probably one of the biggest things. And I made a little notes today, and I have 4 main philosophies, and one of them I just added it to 5 because I didn't even put credit cards on there because it's so far out of my thought process now. I don't have credit card debt. I pay off my credit card debt every month. I've taught my children, if you can't afford it, don't put it on the credit card. Credit cards are very dangerous. So so that wasn't even on my 4-point philosophy that's gotten me to where I am today, because it's so far out of my mind. You don't have credit card debt. You just don't do that. So at a very young age, I took that off the table. That wasn't a factor in my life, and so that really helped me. So there's 4 other things that have really stood me in good stead over the years. And the first one is, don't $5 to debt yourself. It drives me crazy when people say, it's only $5. $5 times 365 is $1,875 a year. It adds up. Or somebody says, oh, that app's only $1.99. Or that new iTunes song's only 99 cents. $1.99 times 365 is $726 a year. And then people always say, oh, I'm just going to buy lunch. I'll just buy $6.99. You know, there's a special down the street, $6.99 times 365. I did the numbers. That's $2,551 a year. So if you add all those little things together, it's $5,125 a year. That's a lot of money. Oh, it's only $5. So my pet peeve, and my kids are so sick of hearing me say that, don't say it's only $5. It adds up. And I've lived this way for so long, it doesn't feel like scarcity. It doesn't feel like I'm depriving myself. I'm just mindful of that Starbucks coffee's $5. I can make it at home for 10 cents. So that's my first rule in my philosophy is don't $5 yourself to debt. The second is don't have a car loan. First of all, I owned my first house before I owned a car. So where in the evolution in our society did we come up with you have to have a car loan or you have to have a nice new car. This just blows me away. Okay, here's the numbers. You buy a $25,000 car new, and here's the car at the old car dealer, so he's probably going, oh my God, you know, and he'll probably be able to correct my numbers. But from my basic philosophy, you buy a $25,000 car new, you drive it off the lot, you lose, what, 20% of the value of it? So now that $25,000 depreciating asset is now worth $20,000. So in that same day, you took out a loan for that car. You financed it over 5 years at roughly 7%. You could probably get better, but we'll say 7%. At the end of the term of that loan, that car will have cost you $30,000. So now you bought a car that's $25,000, but it's going to cost you $30,000. But in 10 minutes, you drive it off the lot, and it's worth $20,000. That you just lost $10,000 in 10 minutes. So my philosophy is drop the ego, drive a junker, save up for the car, and pay cash for it. So don't have a car loan. The other thing is don't pay rent. Never pay rent. If you have to sleep in a tent or couch surf, don't pay rent. And especially in today's market, there's no reason to pay rent. Paying rent is worse than a car loan because you throw it out in the street and you never see anything for it. There's no equity. There's nothing. You completely lose that money. There's programs out there. One is called USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, has a program out there where you can buy a house for nothing, zero down. I actually sat at the closing table last fall, and I saw the buyer, my buyer, get money back at closing. They gave him his earnest money back. He bought that house for $0, his own house. I mean, there's just no reason to pay rent. If you can't qualify for the USDA loan because it's for rural areas, then you can get loans. You can buy a house for as little as $3,000 down. So if you're renting, when you move into the apartment, first, last, and security, it's easily going to cost you $3,000. And you don't see that money again. Maybe you'll get to your security deposit back. So just don't pay rent. Figure out a way to buy a house. If you have credit problems or you have if your debt to income ratio is bad, you could look for somebody to co-sign with you. There's just a lot of ways to get into a house and avoid paying rent. So that's the third one. The fourth one is once you've bought a house, you can OPM, use other people's money. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book goes into it much more in detail. I'll just skim over it now. I've always used other people's money. It's legal and it's easy. So you buy a house, and whenever I've looked for a single-family home, I've always looked for a home that has the capacity to make a rental in it, a walk-off apartment. I have always had somebody else pay my mortgage. Either when I was younger, I had a roommate, and then when I started to buy single-family homes, I always made a walk-off apartment. I always had somebody paying a large portion of my mortgage, other people's money. All these things free up a huge amount of money. You don't need to make a ton of money a year if you're being smart with no car loan, don't have credit card debt, have somebody else pay your mortgage. The last point is if you do own your own home and you do have student loans that are over 4%, you're paying over 4%, get a home equity line of credit. Pay off those student loans or even the credit card debt if you're committed to not running those credit cards up again. And sorry, my cat's whining in the background.
He's passionate about debt reduction as well, it sounds like.
She's cheering me on.
I like it.
Anyway, so take out a home equity line of credit. Consolidate your debt if you're committed to not running up those credit cards or going out and getting another car loan.
And I think you've touched on it. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've touched on this. Is you've been doing this quite a long time, right? So you're well financially educated, and your discipline and commitment to not strain outside of the areas that you are very educated on, I think is an important piece, because everybody is at a different point in their financial journey. you've been doing this since your early 20s, so you really have a great foundation. And you've also had a lot of great mentors. I want to highlight that in my personal journey. I know in Tyler, he's got his dad. I know in Philip, he's had Tim, and I know you've had a handful of people. Is go find a mentor, someone who is going to be able to give you the tools and resources. And that's why we're doing this Google Hangout, is to really to create an awareness, to let people know it's not as complicated as it sounds. It needs to start with mindfulness, awareness around the subject. And if you're having trouble with it, go find someone who's doing it at a much higher level, or utilize this community to give you guys the resources to go out and make some change. So I want to lead into a few little questions as we somewhat transition towards the back end of the conversation. And first off, thank you everybody for sharing. That was really good information. I know our community's getting some good insight on that. We're seeing some stuff roll in. So I wanted to share, Tyler, tell me about where you see yourself in 5 years in your financial journey with where you're at today.
Yeah, so in 5 years, not only will we have our consumer debt paid off, but we're going to be continuing to accelerate that into paying off all our student loans as well. Now, we're going to be taking a little bit of a bump because my wife's going to be stay at home. It will save us a lot of expenses too, and she's going to be absolutely, talk about accountability plan. She's going to be my accountability plan because she's excellent at watching the dollars in and dollars out and keeping on that budget. But also, I have a sort of a side hustle. A couple years ago, while I was getting my business degree, I worked for Northwestern Mutual and got my insurance license. And so I'm supplementing my income with doing kind of life and disability insurance needs for people, and all of that income is going towards debt. And then what that's going to free us up to do is ultimately, in the next 3 to 5 years, assuming all goes to plan, it's going to allow me to have the financial means to buy in as a partner at the firm here at Measure Results, and so I'll be able to become a partner with my dad as a CPA is the ultimate goal. So
I love it.
That's kind of my quick 5-year plan.
That's awesome. And I want to touch on something that I think is really key that you talked about is, I know a lot of people are, we say you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around. And I like to break that up even further is, okay, well, financially, who are the 5 people that are most influential in your life? Is that someone who's constantly living beyond their means? Is that someone who is constantly saving aggressively? If you don't have an accountability partner for pushing in the right direction like you do, you brought up something good in our preliminary call that I wanted you to expand on in regards to accountability.
Okay.
You want
Would you mind reminding me?
Yeah. So
if you could refresh me.
You talked about really the One Life community being a group where you're open to having.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what we had talked about wanting to do, and if you're interested, please post on the Facebook page or send me a Facebook message. We'd like to get a kind of a debt reduction or financial mastermind going, where if you are interested, maybe meet once a quarter, bring your net worth statement and talk about your goals for the next quarter, and figure out an accountability plan among the community and really kind of get something solid and ironed out. That way we're all kind of working together towards creating our own better lives. And I know they really talked about the importance of masterminds and accountability at the One Life conference, and thought this might be a great extension of that from a financial point of view.
Yep. So I invite all you guys out there to plug into this, and it all starts with truly committing to the process first, right? You guys got to trust in this process and really be committed to it. We've got a great group of people that are at all different places in their journey, and this is a great community to really add a layer of accountability. And also gain some mentorship. Depending on where you're at, there's going to be people in this accountability group that are going to be at a high net worth, and there's people that are going to be at a negative net worth, if you want to say that. but I think that it will be something that will be very beneficial for all the people. And just know that there's no judgment. This community is one that is purely giving based, and you guys have to be a little bit vulnerable in order to take that next step. But the second you become comfortable with being uncomfortable, you guys are going to see some and experience some amazing growth. So I love that idea that you shared, Tyler. That was awesome. Philip, tell me a little bit about a book that transformed your financial awareness and some of the resources that we can share and put on our One Life page for the audience to either leverage in their own lives or share with others.
Well, I'd have to say that Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad Poor Dad, definitely planted the seed. For me, my long drive to work before I became before I went full time with my real estate business was about 45 minutes to an hour. I really plugged into Dave Ramsey's podcasts. It gave me that mindset every day on the way to work and on the way home about where I wanted to be at and with the goals that I had set financially. And so, that's one thing that really, really put me in that mindset.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Ellen, and you mentioned that your daughter actually turned you on to an application that I've personally used myself. I know my dad uses it, and I think Tyler mentioned it as well. Why don't you share a little bit about that application?
I actually don't know a whole lot about it. I downloaded it and I never used it. It's called Mint. I think it's very user-friendly. My daughter does use it. It tracks your expenses, your bank accounts. So, yeah, and it's free.
Yep. So that's a good app. I can expand on that one a little bit. There's two applications that are great investment and financial planning tools, which are both free. One is called Personal Capital, and the other one is Mint. And both of those are pretty much right in line with the simple formula that we're talking about, which is getting mindful about what your debt is currently, and then A, where is the current income that currently comes in every single month, B, what is your monthly expenses, and C, what do you have left over to either invest or to pay down the current debt that you guys have. So those are two great application tools. And Tyler, you mentioned the YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. That is also another amazing tool. Tyler, did you have a book that was transformational for you, either from an educational or just a personal growth standpoint that helped you in your budgeting journey?
I would say, as far as book goes, to kind of dovetail on Philip's point about Dave Ramsey's stuff, it's very, very simple. He's got a couple of books. A lot of them say similar things. The most comprehensive is probably his Complete Guide to Money. You can get it for really cheap on his website. And it just really walks you through all the basic tenets of everything you need to know about money, from why it's how expensive debt really is. A lot of the things that Ellen shared about the car payment and how expensive that is, just kind of really beats that stuff as far as debt goes to death. And then also just covers everything from insurance needs and how to deal with credit sharks and collectors are banging on your door and how to handle them. It's just a really comprehensive resource for dealing with all your money issues.
Wonderful. And so I just want to kind of lead into something where this is, just so everybody knows, this is a broad umbrella of really debt reduction and budgeting and where people are at. Take a few pieces. Don't let all of this overwhelm you. Take a few pieces, a few nuggets that really resonate with you guys, and just apply them. And I'm a big believer that through knowledge and discipline, we can all find financial peace in our journey, and you got to start somewhere. So I started personally living in my parents' house on their couches, eating their food and digging into their budgets, I guess you could say. And it all started with me getting out there and starting my own discipline for my financial journey towards what success meant to me. There's 4 levels of consciousness that I think would be a great tool that I want to share with you guys, and it really changed the way I looked at my personal activities and how I was going about applying some disciplines and a framework around my financial planning. So the first one that I want to lead with you guys is unconscious incompetence. And basically that means you don't know what you don't know. And that's why we're all sitting on this webinar here today. That's why you read books. That's why you plug into mentors, is you just don't know what you don't know until you're exposed to it. So the second level is conscious incompetence. So now we officially know what we don't know by sitting on these kind of webinars and reading books. Okay, so there's this simple formula. I can work on that, and that leads you into conscious incompetence. So I'm sorry, conscious competence is the third one, and conscious competence allows you to start being mindful and aware, just like Tyler, Philip, and Ellen have been on their financial planning journey. So we have unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and the fourth, which is the most powerful, is unconscious competence, which basically is saying that that's just who we are now. That is our identity. We don't need tools and resources in order to live that kind of lifestyle. It's just part of our DNA. And so that's a process, right? And we all start with being below average. Just like every leader in the world, they start somewhere and they become extraordinary. And I want people to take these applications and really apply them and commit to a process. And this community is here to do it. So I'm extremely happy that everybody joined today. Is there any other books, Ellen, that you want to chime in on and share with our audience on that really kind of helped you move along with scaling up your kind of conscious competence in your financial journey?
I would say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, absolutely. I mean, the whole theory of passive income is my goal. It's just what I strive for, and so you'll have to get, if you don't know what that is, get the book, read it. That's your ticket to financial freedom, passive income.
I love it. And I'm going to share a few books with you guys that I know are big in our community. Tim wrote, and really the staple behind One Life Community is Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a fantastic story of a financial transformation from one end of the spectrum to the other. Suze Orman's got some great books that have been very inspirational to a lot of people. One personally for me that's more on a somewhat of a spiritual awareness that has led to taking great strides in my debt reduction and financial growth has been Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I know that's a real popular one. Dave Ramsey has some great resources, not only on his website, but obviously in his books. The Total Money Makeover is a killer book that really helps people with creating a plan for what he calls financial fitness. And it's just like any muscle. It starts weak, and over training and discipline and grit, we find a way to strengthen that. So that's a good one. You guys have mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For people that are really into investing, as you get past your debt reduction, you're going to see, oh, I actually have some money left over. What am I going to do with this? And that's where it starts getting fun. And you guys can plug into The Intelligent Investor, is a great book by Benjamin Graham, which is an older book. And The Millionaire Mindset by Thomas J. Stanley is a great one. As you can see, a lot of these books that come out today are really modeled off of books that have been out for an extremely long time. So the model is not really that different than it's always been, but it all starts with the discipline and like Tim says, play a little defense. Be aware of really the pitfalls that could happen, and don't live beyond your means. There's a lot of people who are extremely wealthy in our community that live very simple lives, and it's pretty inspirational to see how many of these people, you know, are operating. So we are excited to kind of wrap up this call. I'm not sure if we have the questions available right now. If you guys aren't able to type in your questions and you want to reach out to either Tyler, Philip, or Ellen, or myself, or obviously you guys know Timmy is very present on the page as well, feel free to post those on the page afterwards, and we will make sure we get responses out to you guys. Also, please make sure that you guys utilize the tools and resources that are available to you, because it starts there. So I want to challenge everybody as we somewhat transition off the call is start with writing down three things that you today want to commit to and accomplish within the next month, whether that is just writing out what your expenses are and finding out what that total is. If that's, you know, identifying how much income you got coming in and mastering out modeling out that A minus B equals C, and then talking about what your action plan is, whatever it may be, commit to yourself to take some action on some financial budgeting steps. And I would love to hear a follow-up in about 3 months. We're all gonna, I'll make sure myself committing to asking the community of really what you guys have done over the last 3 months. I think it'll be really exciting to hear some of the success stories that are going to come from this group and people sharing. And if you guys need any help, that's what this community is for. Be vulnerable, be open, be transparent, and share, because that's what makes these platforms and communities so special. So we're excited to have you guys on the call. I do want to wrap up by saying please check out the One Life page if you haven't already. Also, we are having, what we are extremely excited about is our first East Coast conference, which is in Philadelphia, and there will be links on the page as well if you haven't signed up, or if you know anybody that's on the East Coast. We got people coming in from out of the country, in the United States, locally, anywhere from high schoolers all the way up to, I think we had an 80 or 90-year-old person sitting in the group, which they were, you know, 90 years young. I'll say that. So it's a community of all ages, all sizes, and I'm just excited to be able to start connecting with more people on this platform. If there are topics that you guys want us to really hone in and focus on, please share those. We listen to our community. You guys are driving what kind of content we are putting out. And I just wanted to say thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Ellen. You guys were awesome. It was great to hear all of your stories. And look forward to seeing you guys on next month's webinar.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.